the fifth session of Healthy Head and Healthier Mind. A recap of whatever we discussed yesterday. Consume sweet food first, salty and sour in between, and pungent, astringent, and bitter at the end. Consume liquid food in the beginning, solid food in the middle, and liquid food at the end. I just thought of telling you a funny thing. In the market, we have all types of cleaning liquids, cleaning products available, and they keep on telling that the toilet must be kept very clean. In general, in Sanskrit, toilet is called as Shauchalaya. Shauchalaya means Shuchehe Bhavaha Shaucham. Shaucha Alayam means the one which is very clean. So, even in Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, always they used to say Tan Swachh, Man Swachh, Dhan Swachh. Money must be clean, mind must be clean, body must be clean. And gradually they related it to the toilets which are clean. But the funny part is people are so much worried about cleaning their toilet very clean by means of all types of cleaning fluids. But in the first place, why toilet is becoming dirty? The toilet has become dirty basically because of the human excreta. And why the excreta is dirty? The excreta is dirty because of the wrong food habits. It is because of the consumption of all types of complicated foods. And when inside the stomach, when the worms multiply, or when inside the stomach, when the feces decays, and that is when the feces will have a lot of germs. And these germs only get into the toilet, right? So it is not enough that only the toilet should be kept clean. Before the toilet is clean, the human body must be clean from the mouth till the rectum. If the human body or the human digestive system is kept clean, then there need not be so much of effort put to clean the toilet as such. And even if the toilet is kept very clean, if the digestive system is not kept clean, there is no point in keeping the toilet also clean, because human beings only are going to generate those germs inside their digestive system, and they are only going to fill it in the toilets, and they are only putting a lot of efforts to keep the toilet clean as if the germs are not affecting further. But within the stomach or within the intestine, if regularly germs keep multiplying, then what is the point in keeping only the toilet clean? That is the funny part there. Anyway, my just suggestion to my audience is that you keep your toilet clean, but before that, you keep your digestive system also clean. With this, let me proceed to the next slide. Maintenance of health first, knowledge of consciousness next, earning of livelihood later on, attainment of salvation at death. This was the method of ancient education. We had a great education system, especially they say that Nalanda University was the first founded systematic university on this earth. And there was a very systematic method of education right from the Vedic period. There used to be a system called Gurukula system, where one teacher used to know many subjects and one teacher used to teach many varieties of students. So there the purpose of education was this one only. First, take care of your body, maintenance of health first, then the knowledge of consciousness next, earning of the livelihood later on, and attainment of salvation at death. So life used to be divided into 4 parts called as Brahmacharya, Garhastya, Vanaprastya and Sannyasa. In the Brahmacharya itself, before the person gets married, whether it is a male person or a female person, they were sent to Gurukula, and in the Gurukula they used to study first about yoga and Ayurveda, next about Vedanta. Yoga is for the self, Ayurveda is for the others, and Vedanta is for everyone. So that way they used to study a lot about the human body, they used to study about the human mind. On top of that, they used to study about the human soul or the guiding spirit which is within. And that is how maintenance of health first and knowledge of consciousness next. After that, come to Grahasthashrama and keep on earning your livelihood and attainment of salvation at death. That way, dharma, artha, kama, moksha. First learn about dharma or righteousness. Now, using the principles that those are there in the dharma or righteousness, earn your livelihood, satisfy your desires, then attain salvation or moksha. This was called as Chaturvidha Purushartha, and this was the method of ancient education. Look at the irony. Learning for livelihood first, earning of money next, losing of health later on, knowledge of consciousness never. This is the method of present education. As soon as a child is born, parents are worried more about when to admit this child to school, pre-nursery, Montessori, lower kindergarten, upper kindergarten, then the primary school, first standard, second standard, then high school, then in PUC, which branch to take, after PUC, what to study, and this way. The education as such presently is right from the beginning about learning for livelihood. What my son will become, what my daughter will become. If they take science, let them become engineers or doctors. If they take commerce, let them become chartered accountants. If they take arts, let them become lawyers. Majority of the parents are thinking this way, especially in the Indian context. Now, even in the other context, apart from the Indian context, even around the world, primarily the education is basically for livelihood. In the beginning itself, either the parents will make a decision, or after the primary education and the secondary education is over, the youngsters will take a decision about what they have to study, how they have to pursue. I have been going through one Coursera's MOOC course. The course is called as Science of Well-Being. There the teacher, she is taking a live class to the students at Yale University in USA, and she just casually asked the students, what makes you happy? In general, all the students say that once they get graduated with good grades, and then when they get at least around $25,000 to $30,000 per annum, they'll be happy. Then she gives a statistical data which the researchers have collected, and one of those was Nobel Prize winner also. And the data says that if the money in life is less, then there is unhappiness for basic comforts. But if the money keeps on increasing, in USA they have found out that if the income increases more than $75,000 per annum, the happiness will not increase. In the 1940s, people used to live happier than the people who now live in 2020s. This is the study they have made in USA. In the 1940s, people never used to have basic comforts. Still, their happiness index was much larger than the happiness index which is there right now in 2020. So, research data proves that more money is also not leading to more happiness that way. Money is very much required for a comfortable lifestyle. If money is very less, then people struggle for survival. On the contrary, if money is larger than a particular limit, happiness index does not increase with that. So that teacher, she directly gave all the evidences and data saying that many times the goals in life are actually not leading to happiness. In the young age or in the middle age, people will have all types of different goals. But even when they achieve those goals also, that happiness is again temporary because they will have bigger new sets of goals and ambitions, and when they will be happy. And she also told one funny thing, one more funny thing, which is again proven by data, that the people when they are unmarried, especially in the West, they take their own decision to get married, unlike in the East or in India. In India, in general, parents only take a decision, whereas in the West, the youngsters only take a decision to get married, and they think that after marriage their happiness will increase. But that happiness will remain like that only for next 1 or 2 years. Afterwards, it has been seen, or it has been uh, collected by the data, that all marriages after about 2 or 3 years, especially in the West, they don't remain happy as such. So it was only for 1 or 2 years until they understand each other, and afterwards they'll keep on counting the mistakes of each other or the weaknesses of each other, and they'll keep on blaming each other. There's a funny sentence: in the first year of the marriage, husband talks and wife listens. In the second year of marriage, wife talks and husband listens. From the third year of marriage onwards, both talk and neighbors listen. Which means arguments, quarrels, fights, blame games, they go on. So they have found out that initially in the Western side, they think that after they get married, getting children and getting settled, expanding the family, they will get more happiness. But that happiness will not increase afterwards. These are all very strange. But the point is, in this holy land of Bharata, many millenniums before, the saints had made a search for this truth, and they had found out that what is actually leading to happiness or satisfaction. Regarding that, I am going to talk at length later on, not now. But I briefed you about all these facts just to think that in what way majority of the people are making a drastic mistake by means of a social conditioning, where learning for livelihood first is the primary goal, earning of money next, whether it is any degree, ultimately out of the degree or out of the job or out of the business, how much money they make, that becomes the point. And not just jobs or businesses, even in sports, even in film industry, even in spirituality. That is the most funny part of it. Even in spirituality, when they start preaching or teaching spirituality, how much money do they make and how much turnover happens in the monastery or in the ashram in the name of health, in the name of God, even in temples, even in the places of worship, how much money is collected. So everything is centered around money here, and earning of money next, and because of this, losing of health later on, because of dissatisfaction. Initially they think that they'll become more and more happier, but gradually, in one way or the other, people are becoming unhappy. When they become unhappy, they are losing their mental balance, and because of the havoc lifestyle, unplanned lifestyle, they are losing their physical health also. Because of all these issues, mental imbalances, they are losing their health, mental health also. And knowledge of consciousness, never. Whatever I told about dharma, artha, kama, moksha, that moksha has no place in the present education at all. And even in the spiritual education also, I really wonder whether they discuss really moksha. There's a great book called as Brahma Sutra, written by Vedavyasa. But unfortunately, most of the Brahmins also do not know that a book called Brahma Sutra is available. Brahma Sutra basically means that formula for God or formula of God, which Vedavyasa had written millenniums before. But majority of the youngsters are aware of a Kama Sutra, and they make it popular also. Even the Western people only made it very popular. But Patanjali has written Yoga Sutra, which people are not aware of much. And Vyasa has written Brahma Sutra, which many of the majority of the people are also not aware of. That is the sad part of the present education. But this was very much there in the ancient education. In the present education, there is no content of spirituality, there is no content of discussion about the true purpose of life. And that is the sad part of it. So you may think about, sir, you are only commenting on the present system. Do you have solutions? You may ask me. I have definite solutions. By the end of this presentation, you will come to know all those solutions which I am going to tell you. And in my next presentation, you will have a very clear picture about the true purpose of life. You will have to wait until then. Any big fruit has to be eaten in smaller slices only. That way, sometimes you may feel that I am just ridiculing or joking or making fun of the present system only. No, I'm not just making fun of the present system. I am mentioning the flaws because of which people are unhappy. I'm mentioning the reasons because of which people are losing their health. And I have definite solutions for all these reasons. Actually, it is not my solutions. All these solutions have been given by the ancient seers only, millenniums before. Not just few decades before or not few centuries before. It has been told millenniums before, and I have been mentioning you that also. Ayurveda is for the physical health, yoga is for the mental health, Vedanta is for the spiritual health. And this has been given millenniums before. Now it is time that people understand. Raghavendra, mute mado. I should keep on telling people to remain muted, and I don't know how long I should keep telling this. So it is high time or right time that whatever treasures have been given to the people by the ancient seers, irrespective of the religion. I'm not discussing any religion here. Irrespective of the religion, religion came later on by the followers. Earlier, there used to be seers. There used to be people who were connected with the consciousness. And even now, there are people who have enough knowledge of consciousness. The only thing is, as long as it is not there in the present education, people don't know that such thing exists also. As I told you, most of the people are aware that a book called Kama Sutra is available. Actually, that is a perverted version of Kama Sutra. Whatever book is available, that is a perverted version. Vatsyayana had not written the book which is right now available. We call it as a Prakshepa, where some people, over a period of time, when they made copies, purposefully corrupted it, purposefully added dirty things, vulgar things, obscene things. And that is when they made movies also on that. Vatsyayana himself was a saint. He has not written any such dirty books. Even in the Puranas, you will find that there are many dirty stories available. Many such obscene or dirty stories, where many times Indra is depicted as if he is always a rapist. There is a story of one rishi called Dirghatamas. I'm not going to tell the story here. It's a very dirty and obscene story, where Indra cursed this Dirghatamas to become blind when he was in the womb itself. But such stories, Veda Vyasa will never write. He would have not written at all. Vyasa who wrote Bhagavad Gita, Vyasa who wrote Brahma Sutra, he can never write such dirty stories in the Puranas, which simply means that over a period of time, when people made copies of the same books, they kept on adding more and more of such things, and they corrupted the divine truths which were earlier told. That is why religions are started by the followers. I'm not discussing any religious philosophy here. I'm discussing the true spiritual people who had the knowledge of consciousness. and they were spreading that knowledge of consciousness itself. Socrates also one of them. Moses was also one of them. Jesus Christ was also one of them. Prophet Muhammad was also one of them. So here I am not differentiating between the many seers who are all around earth. The truth was told by them in their own style, in their own language. Even Lao Tzu was there in China. They told the truth in their own ways, their own language, but the truth was the same told by everyone. But unfortunately, in the present education, that knowledge of consciousness is not taught at all. So it has been my bridge this gap, and that is the basic purpose of conducting these sessions in spite of all the obstacles and disturbances and even criticisms. Okay, let me go on further. This is one of the greatest philosophers of this time, Deepak Chopra. He has told that the collective dream is the hypnosis of social conditioning. The collective dream is the hypnosis of social conditioning. The collective dream means whatever people call as development. What is that development or progress? Whenever they say it is development, progress, economy, it is basically more and more of money. With the more and more of money, lose more and more of health and go away from God more and more. Knowledge of consciousness is knowledge of God only. Self-realization and God realization are one and the same. Fish is inside water, water is inside fish. Actually, it is the water which decided to create fishes within itself, and water only created fishes, water only became fishes. Actually, water is inside fishes also. Fishes are taking water only. And there is water everywhere. Inside water, there are fishes. Now, the problem with the fishes is that these fishes are not trying to understand water. Instead, they are trying to understand each other. All these fishes are trying to understand other fishes, but they are not trying to understand each other. That is when they are suffering. If they understand the water which is inside them, then they will gradually understand the same water is outside them. They have to understand the water which is inside them, then they'll gradually understand the water which is outside them. If the human beings understand there is a self or a soul within them, then they'll gradually understand that the same self or soul is outside them, it is everywhere. So, self-realization and God realization are one and the same. Right now, if you don't understand this sentence, don't worry. I'm going to discuss at length in my next presentation called Secrets of Spirituality. So this collective dream is the hypnosis of social conditioning, which means because of learning for livelihood and because of earning money more and more and because of losing health, because of no knowledge of God, people have gone far away from God. Now they have to take a U-turn and they have to come back in order to become truly happy. Now the present context is whenever you have money, you buy a vehicle, maybe two-wheeler or four-wheeler. Within 2 to 3 years, change your two-wheeler. Within 4 to 5 years, change your four-wheeler unnecessarily. You just don't want to drive the same vehicle again. You simply keep on changing. If possible, keep on changing your houses also. Buy a new flat. From a 2-bedroom, go to 3-bedroom. From 3-bedroom, go to 4-bedroom. That way you keep on going on and stay away from each other. When from a smaller house, when you go to a bigger house, you try to stay away from each other because it's a bigger house now. So unnecessarily keep on spending your time and money for all these activities only. If at all you keep on watching a television model at home, let us say some relative comes or a friend comes or a neighbor comes, they'll casually ask you, when did you buy this TV? If at all you say that I bought this TV 5 years before, they will feel aghast and they will tell you, you have been seeing the same model since last 5 years. Many other new models come in the market. Why don't you change your TV? Now, just to satisfy them, You will go to market and you will change your TV, right? Are you satisfied? Or are you satisfying others? Most of the time, people are living just to satisfy others. Most of the time, people are not living to satisfy themselves. Actually, they don't know what is meant by satisfaction. They think that they will be satisfied only when others appreciate them. But what about the others who are appreciating you? For what sake they are appreciating you? That is what is the collective dream, is the hypnosis of social conditioning, where people really don't know what is the true meaning of happiness. Many times they think that the material comforts are leading to happiness. But if the material comforts also, when are you going to be happy? When you don't have a mental stability, you keep on changing each and everything. Of course, except for your parents, everything else is available on the net now. Even husbands and wives and gadgets, even teachers are available on the net now. Except for your own parents. Unfortunately, you may not be able to change them. But some of them will decide that they have to separate from their parents also. Many times in the young age or in the middle age, they think that their parents are nuisance. And many times they will break up from the parents also. They will remain isolated from the parents also. And they'll think that they'll become happy when they stay separate. When they attain that age, then they realize what mistake they have made. So this way, if people are not having any stability of mind, if they really don't know what they want in life, then that is itself is called as social conditioning. Social conditioning means you live just to satisfy some other part of this society. That's all. You are not happy anytime. Neither the society is happy anytime. Society is more worried about growth in terms of money, development in terms of money. It is only a material growth. There is no mental growth. There is no spiritual growth. Tyagena ekena amrtatvam manashuhu. That is what the Upanishad says. Now people will laugh at me when I tell all these things, that all your Upanishads and Vedanta, it is all useless. Then I'll ask you one simple question. The person who is getting 10,000 rupees salary, is he happier than the person who is getting 1 lakh rupees salary? The person who is getting 1 lakh rupees salary, is he happier than the person who is getting 10 lakhs rupees salary? Just compare. Honestly compare and find out who is more happy. If your basic needs are met, you will be more happy. Later on, whatever people earn in terms of growth or progress or economy or whatever, what are they doing with that? What are they doing with that? Chanakya had told many centuries before about Arthashastra, and he had told how money should be managed. I should tell you a small incident which happened with Chanakya. Once, Chandragupta had ordered for lot of rugs to be distributed to poor people during the winter season. And it was all stacked in Chanakya's house. Chanakya had taken the responsibility of distributing all these rugs to poor people. One thief came to know that in Chanakya's house there are a lot of rugs available. So thief came at night just to steal some of the rugs. When he sneaked into Chanakya's house, he was seeing that Chanakya was sleeping on a mat. Chanakya was not sleeping on a rug. Chanakya was not using that rug also. There were hundreds of rugs stacked in Chanakya's house, but Chanakya was sleeping on his own old mat. Now the thief who came to steal rugs was aghast, and he was thinking, I came to steal some of the rugs, but I am seeing that this great teacher of Chandragupta Maurya is sleeping on an old mat. Now out of his own curiosity, he patted Chanakya and made him to wake up. When Chanakya woke up, thief apologized with him, saying, I am a thief, I came to steal some of the rugs here, but when I saw you sleeping on a mat, I did not feel like stealing rugs. When you have so many rugs around you, why are you not taking some of the rugs and why are you not sleeping with them? Why are you sleeping on a mat? Then Chanakya told, all these rugs were purchased by the money which was collected as tax from the public. And this is neither my money nor Chandragupta Maurya's money. It is not king's money. It is not minister's money. It is neither teacher's money. So it is collected as a tax from the public. It has to be utilized to be of help to the poor. So I have no rights to use that rug even for one night. That was the greatness of Chanakya. And he had written Arthashastra. Even today, that book Chanakya Niti is available. Those of you who are interested can study that particular book. It's a very small book. It is available in English translation also. It is available in other language translations also. You can buy that book. You can go through the book in your spare time. Now, only sages, psychotics, and geniuses manage to break free. I told you the story of Chanakya. Now, remember that. Now, Chanakya was a sage. He could break free the social conditioning because he was stable with himself. He knew what he has to do. He knew what he is not supposed to do. His happiness index was not dependent on the material wealth or the income which he used to get. So, if at all I tell you that Tyagena Ekena Amrtatvamanashuhu, if the Upanishad says, don't laugh at me, don't laugh at the Upanishads. Elevate yourselves. Rise above this social conditioning and find out your true purpose of life. Earning money, spending money, earning money, spending money, eating, cheating, mating, that is not life. Monday to Friday working like a horse, Saturday spending like a king or queen, Sunday sleeping like a pig, that is not life. This life is not just for earning money, spending money, earning money, spending money, or saving for the future, saving for somebody else, and just living in that particular rat race. That is not the true purpose of life. That is where Deepak Chopra directly told, the collective dream is the hypnosis of the social conditioning. Only sages, psychotics, and geniuses manage to break free. Psychotics also manage to break free. Why? Mad people, psychotic people, they don't know what is right, what is wrong. Even if a psychotic person walks naked on the road, nobody will bother much because they know that he is a mad fellow. In Bangalore city, I see so many mad people walking around with the minimum amount of clothes. Many times they will be half naked. But nobody is bothered because the psychotics are broken their rules free. They are not part of social conditioning. Similarly, sages and geniuses, only they can manage to break free. Let me come back to the health aspect. I have been telling you about Dr. J.V. Hebbar. He has done a mammoth effort of collecting the health related or Ayurveda related data in his beautiful website called easyayurveda.com. And he has painstakingly answered to so many queries which people put there. In each of his article, you can see below there will be a conversation where somebody will be posting their comments or their health issues. And he has answered almost all of those comments or questions. We should appreciate him heavily. So I have learned a lot from his website, easyayurveda.com. I should tell you about J.V. Hebbar also a little bit. When he was in his PUC education, he had a heavy sickness, and because of the wrong dosage of some allopathic medicine, he suffered a lot. And he regained his health by means of some Ayurvedic therapy. So during PUC itself, he decided that he should study Ayurveda for his own sake. And he should study more about health. Gradually, he studied Ayurveda. He became a qualified doctor in Ayurveda. Now he is working as an assistant professor in Alwas College, Modbidri, Ayurveda College only. So, because of his suffering during his PUC, he is unable to freely move around. So, he does not have any clinic as such. He teaches Ayurveda and then he gives consultations only online, and he keeps on writing beautiful articles on Ayurveda. So I'm acknowledging him here because I have learned a lot from this particular website. Now he has told the wrong food combinations which are already mentioned in the Ayurvedic texts. Spinach and sesame should not be mixed. Radish and black gram should not be mixed. Sour fruit and black gram should not be mixed. Curds and palm date should not be mixed. Banana and buttermilk should not be mixed. Mushroom and mustard oil should not be mixed. Ghee and rock sugar should not be mixed. Honey and water should not be mixed. Ghee and water should not be mixed. Honey and ghee and water also should not be mixed. According to the Ayurvedic texts, all these are wrong food combinations. Next, milk should not be consumed after the intake of radish, garlic, holy basil, green leafy vegetables, horse gram, and all types of sour fruits. Look at this. Milk should not be consumed after the intake of radish, garlic, holy basil, green leafy vegetables, horse gram, and all types of sour fruits. So whenever they do that milkshake with so many sour fruits, when they make a milkshake, what happens to the nutrients of the milk and what happens to the vitamin C that is available in sour fruits? There will be a wrong chemical reaction happening between them. So all those milkshakes which are fusions of so many other things, be careful. Don't consume all those milkshakes regularly. Someday the same milkshake, if you keep on consuming, it will shake your stomach. So milk should not be consumed after you consume sour fruits. Curds should not be consumed with green leafy vegetables. Look at this. This is neither Arvinda telling nor J.V. Hebbar telling. This is the Ayurvedic authentic textbooks telling. Curds should not be consumed with green leafy vegetables. Means when you make salads, let us say when you have salads of green leafy vegetables, you should not add curds. Because the property of curds is something else. The property of green leafy vegetables is something else. Honey and ghee, when consumed together, should not be consumed in equal proportion. If at all you are mixing honey and ghee, 1 teaspoon honey, 1 teaspoon ghee should not be mixed. I hope all of you remember the proportion which I told regarding Madhuparka when we discussed the art and science of eating. It was disproportionate. So whenever honey and ghee are mixed, they should not be in equal proportion because their properties are different. Their natures are different. Sprouted grains should not be consumed on daily basis. See, why sprouted grain should not be consumed on daily basis? In fact, when any grain sprouts, slightly it goes a decay or a fermentation. That is when a seed germinates. If at all you smell that particular germinated seed, at times you will find a foul smell. That foul smell indicates that there is a decay and a fermentation. So, on a daily basis, even if it is containing enough nutrients, sprouted grains should not be consumed. Instead of nutrition, it may be causing more decay when it goes inside. That way we have to be careful. Sprouted grains have been made very popular by the market now, by the food market. As food itself became an industry, everywhere sprouted grains are available and everybody is saying that sprouted grains are very good for health. Yes, they are good for health, but not on a daily basis. Cold food should not be consumed after hot food. Yesterday I was telling about the marriage reception dinner, and after dinner, mostly everywhere it will be ice cream that is going to be served. Sometimes ice cream along with the jalebi, with the carrot halwa, all that is going to be served. Sometimes the basundi also is being served. Actually, sweet has to be consumed in the beginning. But here sweet is also going to be consumed at the end and cold is also going to be consumed at the end. Now let us say after you have such a sumptuous dinner and then you fill a cold ice cream, what happens in the stomach? Stomach is secreting the acid to digest your dinner. On top of which, when you put ice cream there, what will happen to the stomach wall? Again, go back and recall the construction of the stomach. And now think, stomach is secreting hydrochloric acid to digest the food, and then you pour ice cream there. What will happen to the hydrochloric acid when you pour ice cream there? Now stomach has to work more because that hydrochloric acid gets neutralized by this particular ice cream, and the temperature of the stomach gets reduced. Now the blood has to be pumped more towards the stomach just to regain the temperature of the stomach itself. So that way, consuming ice cream after dinner is a very, very, very bad habit. But nobody is bothered. As food has become an industry, as taste has become more prominent than the health, nobody is bothered. People will say, sir, ellaru ಮಾಡ್ತಾವ್ರೆ ನಾವು ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ sir. People will say, sir, everybody is doing, we are also doing, sir. Then I will say, ellaru ನರಳ್ತಾರೆ ನೀವು ನರಳಿ. Everybody is suffering, you also suffer. That is what I see. I will tell you the story of Nachiketa and Yama. This is slightly a bigger story. I will not go into the deeper aspects of the story. Nachiketa was the son of Uddalaka Aruni. Uddalaka Aruni also had one more name called Vajashravas. So when Vajashravas conducted a particular yaga, a ritual, big ritual, at the end of the ritual, he donated many old cows which were at home, he donated to the Brahmins. Nachiketa became upset with his own father, and he told, you are donating all those old cows to Brahmins. Now I am your son, I am very young, whom are you going to donate? Now Uddalaka Aruni or Vajashra was told, are you mad? I am not going to donate my son to anybody. I am donating the old cows, they are of no use, that is why I am donating. I am not going to donate my own son. But Nachiketa knew that his father is a cunning fellow. So Nachiketa repeatedly kept on asking, whom are you going to donate me? After some time, Vajashravas became so angry with his son. Out of anger, he simply told, go, I am donating you to Yama. Yama is the Lord of Death. Now Nachiketa told, okay, you are donating me to Lord of Death, Yama. I am going to Yamaloka. And Nachiketa went to Yamaloka. When Nachiketa went to Yamaloka, Yama was not there. After 3 days, Yama came back. When Yama came back, he saw a guest waiting, and this guest had come 3 days before. Yama asked Nachiketa, nobody comes to my house. This is the house of the Lord of Death. Nobody comes here. Why did you come here? Then Nachiketa said, my father told that he has donated me to you, so I voluntarily came to offer myself to you. Now Yama said, because you have been waiting here since last 3 days, you asked me 3 boons. And Nachiketa initially asked 2 general boons. 2 general boons about his own father and about his own returning back. The 3rd boon, Nachiketa asked Yama to tell the secret of death. Now Yama said, I can give you all the wealth on the world. I can give you anything else that you want. But don't ask me this particular boon. Don't ask me the secret of death. Nachiketa said, I only want the 3rd boon as the secret of death itself. I don't want any other wealth on this earth. Now Yama asked, when I told you to ask 3 boons, 2 boons you asked about your own return and about your own father. Now the 3rd boon, why are you so adamant that you want to know the secret of death only? Because nobody else has asked me this. Why are you wanting to know the secret of death? Now Nachiketa told, there are 2 options for me. One is Shreyas and one is Preyas. Shreyas means beneficial, Preyas means pleasing. Many times in life, whatever is pleasing may not be beneficial, whatever is beneficial may not be pleasing. All my teachings are beneficial to you, but at times it may not be pleasing to you because you will have to change your lifestyle. At the same time, if at all you are left for yourself, what will happen is you will get lost in the rat race, you will get a victim of the social conditioning. So, if at all I tell you that consume kashaya every day, it may not be pleasing to you, but it is beneficial to your system. Now, if at all I keep on telling you to keep on consuming all fried items, it will be very much pleasing to you. You will keep on consuming ice creams, you will keep on consuming oil fried items, you will keep on consuming all types of soft drinks, packed products. It is all pleasing to you, but it is not beneficial to you. Now, Nachiketa told to Yama that I don't want anything that you give that will please me, because anything that pleases me is going to be temporary. I want to know the secret of death because I want to have that beneficial knowledge only. So whatever is beneficial is called as Shreyas, and whatever is pleasing is called as Preyas. Nachiketa says, I want Shreyas only, I don't want Preyas. This story is there in the Kathopanishad. The interested listeners can study the Kathopanishad later on. Once when Aravinda studied this Kathopanishad, Aravinda took this name Shreyas and he kept the same name to his son also and to his yoga center also. It is not that Aravinda kept his son's name to his yoga center. No, not that way. He kept the name Shreyas to his son also, to the yoga center also. So that let his son also be beneficial to society, let the yoga center also be beneficial to society. That is how this center is called as Shreyas Center for Yoga. And that word was derived from Kathopanishad, and that was told by Nachiketa. Now, when I say cold food should not be consumed after hot food, when I say that you should not consume ice cream after your dinner, it is Shreyas for you. Otherwise, if you keep consuming ice cream after dinner, then it is only Preyas for you. Because everywhere, in all ceremonies, at the end of the dinner or at the end of the lunch, they will have ice creams. I am seeing at many places, wherever they have bigger functions, in the beginning, there will be some chats. Pani puri, bel puri, masal puri, some chats. Later on, there will be some main course. And at the end, there will be ice cream. Let us say you have such lunch or dinner. Take your own time, half an hour, 1 hour later, or take your own time, 2 hours later. How do you feel? Let us say you went to one particular party. Initially, you had some chats, then you had the main course, then you had all the mixture of South Indian as well as North Indian items, and you had enough of halwa and kachori and jalebi and basundi and rasmalai, all such things. Finally, you had a dose of ice cream. Just observe your own body after about 1 hour or 2 hours. How do you feel? Do you feel real relaxation of eating a food, or do you feel suffocation in the stomach? Do you feel uneasiness, or do you feel sleepiness? If you feel sleepiness, it means that body is telling you, now go to sleep because you have given me heavy work now. Because you have given me heavy work, I have to work a lot. Which simply means that you are taking your body for granted, you have become a victim of whatever is pleasing you, which is not beneficial to you. So cold food should not be consumed after hot food. If this is the case, then it is Shreyas. If at all you consume cold food after hot food, then it is Preyas. Someday you will remember this story once again if you keep on continuing this particular lifestyle. You don't have to become yielded to the situations where you may say that, sir, everywhere it is like that, how can I avoid? It is your choice to avoid. You can avoid if you want to avoid. Nobody will bring ice cream to you after the dinner and they will not pour into your mouth. Now you may say that, sir, others are going, my family members are going, along with them I should also go. I cannot educate them, sir. Okay, you don't educate them, but you remain educated, no? You have your choice to remain stable, right? You have your choice to break this habit, right? Other day somebody asked me a question, no. How can we remain positive in types of all these things? I told no. That is your choice to remain positive, right? It is your choice to remain healthy, right? Ultimately, we are all alone only, right? We are all grown up people, we are all adults. We are capable of taking our own decisions, right? Why should we satisfy somebody else's ego by going into something that is preyous, which is going to be unhealthy later on? Why don't which is shreyas or beneficial to our own body? That choice remains with the individual, but it requires enough courage. If at all you have to break up all this social conditioning, it requires enough courage. You will have to develop that courage over a period of time. Otherwise, you will become a victim for this stupid social system. Curd with green vegetables or even with cooked soppu, like soppu palya or curd, is that also bad? Curd with green leafy vegetables itself is bad, whether it is cooked or uncooked. Green leafy vegetables have a different composition and curd is a different composition. When the stomach digests these two things separately, there will be a harmful chemical reaction happening inside. That is why curd should not be consumed with green leafy vegetables. That way, this raita which people consume, where if the curds are mixed with the green leafy vegetables, that is not a healthy practice at all. So that is where I had told you that whatever social conditioning is there, in whichever way people have made those habits, they have made those habits on their own without actually verifying whether it is healthy or unhealthy. Can we consume banana after food? Yes, you can. You can consume any fruits after food because fruits are light. You can consume. Only sweets you should not consume at the end. Sweets means wherever more and more of sugar concentration or jaggery concentration is there, that should not be consumed at the end. That is the mistake which they do in the present marriage reception dinners also. Many times they serve sweet at the end. They are not supposed to do that. That I have told you already yesterday. What about buttermilk in some tambuli or soppu? We add buttermilk. Yes, but you do seasoning, right? I had told you about how to prepare tambuli, and tambuli is already told in the Ayurvedic text only, where there is a seasoning item there. That green leafy vegetable is not directly added that way. That process of preparing tambuli itself is overcoming the negative effects. Can we have sprouts twice a week? Yes, you can have sprouts twice a week. Okay, keep your questions for later on. Let me continue with my slides. Curds or sweets should not be consumed at night. Curds are fermented. Sweets are heavy. Dinner should not be heavy. If at all you consume sweets at night, your stomach has to work a lot to digest it because any sweet is a concentrated sugar or concentrated jaggery, where it takes a lot of time or it uses a lot of resources for digesting. So curds or sweets should not be consumed at night. Again, I am telling the reason. Curds are fermented, more and more decay. At night, more and more decaying will happen within. And sweets require more and more of digestive resources. So this should be avoided at night. Again, the same problem. Almost all marriage receptions happen in the evening, and in the evening there will be heavy food. In the heavy food, there will be heavy sweets, and it is at night time only. And if at all you consume such dinner, that particular night you can observe your way of sleeping. Did you have a pleasant sleep or did you have an unpleasant sleep? You can watch yourself. Next day morning when you wake up, do you wake up with the pleasant happiness or pleasant fresh mood, or do you have still uneasiness? You can watch yourself. Then you can understand this last sentence, that sweets should not be consumed at night. I am going to tell you some beautiful healthy remedies which are described in Ayurveda. One such thing is called Tri Yoga. This is to cleanse the blood completely. This is for a weight loss also. This is for a sugar control also. This is for overall health also. You should take fenugreek or methi 250 grams, carom seeds or oma 100 grams, black cumin or black jeera 50 grams. Here the ratio is 5:2:1. 250 grams, carom seeds 100 grams, black cumin 50 grams. At times when you ask for this kala jeera or black cumin, they generally give one more grain called kalonji. Kalonji is different, kala jeera is different. This is cumin seed itself, which is blackish in color. In general, cumin seed is brownish in color. This is black jeera itself. You can specifically ask for black jeera only. But this black jeera is a rare item. Instead, many of these Grandige shops or many of these shops which sell organic items or Ayurvedic items, herbal items, they sell kalonji also. Kalonji is also equally good. But kalonji belongs to the family of Oma itself. Just like you have a regular carom seeds, kalonji is some type of black Oma. That is also good. If you don't get black jeera, then you can buy kalonji also. But when you get black jeera, use black jeera only. So here the ratio is 5:2:1. Dry roast them separately and powder them together. Keep the powder in a bottle airtight. Now before sleeping, every night for complete 1 year, put half teaspoon of this powder into the mouth and drink half glass of warm water. This powder can also be added to buttermilk also along with the dry ginger powder and asafoetida. At night you can consume buttermilk. You should not consume curds. And again, when you consume buttermilk, here the buttermilk is a pathya or anupana. For this powder, buttermilk is the anupana. You don't have to again ask me the question that, sir, you just told now that buttermilk is a decayed one. No, here buttermilk is taken with this particular powder. So buttermilk will not have any potency. Buttermilk is, its potency is reduced by this particular powder. Buttermilk is used as only a medium. Okay. So this powder can be added to buttermilk also along with the dry ginger powder and asafoetida. If you want a variety, you can do this also. Otherwise, simply take this half teaspoon of this powder into the mouth and drink half glass of warm water. But pregnant women and kids should not use this remedy. One thing. Second thing is, if you're already having optimum health, you don't have to do this. But there is no harm in doing this. As such, you don't have to do this if you are already having nearly 75% health. Let us say you want to lose your weight, which you have, let us say if you have more cholesterol, if you feel that way, and if you are lazy to do yoga abhyasa or if you are lazy to do physical exercises, then you can use this. Or if you are diabetic already, if you want to reduce the diabetic sugar content in the blood, or if you want to have optimum control, then you can definitely do this for complete 1 year. Within 3 months, you will come to know the difference that is happening within your body. Okay, all the diabetes people can definitely do this complete 1 year. You should be religious that way. And this is already for overall health because it is going to cleanse the blood completely. This is called Tri Yoga. Why it is called Tri Yoga? Yoga means combination. It's a combination of 3 medicinal items. That is why it is called Tri Yoga. But as I told you, pregnant women and kids should not use this remedy at all because the kids don't require this. Their blood is already clean. They need not cleanse their blood. Pregnant women should not use this because pregnant women's blood is going to be circulated to the womb as well. So there the kid is growing in the womb. So pregnant women, for them, this is not necessary as such. This is one health care called Tri Yoga. Next, there is one more thing called Shadanga Paniya. This is mentioned in Bhava Prakasha and it is also mentioned in Shodashanga Hridaya. This is called Shadanga Paniya. This is to quench excessive thirst. Especially when people suffer from fever, there will be distaste. If you take antibiotics, you will have more and more of distaste. Even if you take Ayurvedic medicine also, after fever has gone away, you will have slight amount of distaste and you will have some strange thirst which is happening. In general, after fever is gone, you will have some excessive thirst within your body because body is asking for more and more of fluids. So to quench that excessive thirst, now this Shadanga Paniya need not be only for the people who suffered from fever. It can be for normal people also who keep on feeling thirsty in their regular lifestyle. They can also try out. So there are 6 medicinal plants. One is called Mustaka or Musta. In Kannada it is called Konnarigadde. I should tell you about a very holy person called Malladihalli Swamiji, Malladihalli Raghavendra Swami. He was initiated into the yogic path by the great Avadhuta Nityananda of Kanjangad. So this particular Malladihalli Raghavendra Swami, he used to keep on going to so many villages and he used to keep on teaching yoga to many villagers. And his guru of yoga is not Avadhuta Nityananda, his guru of yoga is somebody else. I think it is somebody called Palaniswami or somebody, I don't recall the name fully. So his guru had told him not to stay in any village for more than a week. But when this Raghavendra Swami came all the way to Malladihalli, there were a lot of weaver families there, and those people did not allow him to go after 1 week. They kept on pleading him to stay for 1 more week. He stayed there for 1 more week teaching yoga to those honest people. And then again, they told him that you should never leave our village, you should stay here only because our children want you. You should educate our children, you should educate the younger generation. And somehow, Raghavendra Swami stayed at Malladihalli. He established a yoga ashrama, he established a Ayurveda ashrama, he established a school, he established a graduate degree college also there. He did a mammoth effort at Malladihalli. That place is near Chitradurga. So this Raghavendra Swami, he has written one Kannada book called Swayam Vaidya. He had studied Ayurveda from one of his masters, and the master used to stay in Afghanistan at that time. And this Malladihalli Raghavendra Swamiji used to go there to Afghanistan to study about the herbal medicines and Ayurveda from that great master. After he came back, he used to teach Ayurveda and yoga to the villagers, and he has written a very beautiful book in Kannada called Swayam Vaidya. In that book, in every 20-30 pages, he keeps on bringing this particular herb called Mustaka or Konnarigadde. For so many diseases, he says that particular Konnarigadde, they also call it as Bhadramushti in Kannada. Recently, in one of his videos, Dr. Giridhar Kajay also mentioned about these 3 things as immunity agents against viral infection, against this corona pandemic. He told one is Nelanelli or Bhumyamlaki, one more is Bhadramushti, that itself is this Konnarigadde, and one more he told Amritavalli or Guduchi. And I have mentioned you already all these 3 things, and all these 3 things are already present as ingredients in Chyavanprasha. So I have been telling you to consume Chyavanprasha regularly so that it contains all these medicinal herbs. So this Mustaka or Konnarigadde is one of the wonder medicines in Ayurveda. Along with that, there is another herb called Parpataka. It is called as Kallu Sabbasike in Kannada. Another herb called Udichya or Netrabala, which is called as Balarakshi in Kannada. Ushira or Lavancha, you are quite familiar with this because Lavancha is regularly available in Grandige shops. Now all this Konnarigadde or Kallu Sabbasike or Balarakshi, that also you can get in Grandige shops. And then lastly, Chandana or Shrigandha along with the Ardraka or Shunti. Now you have to make a coarse powder of all these items. It is to be mixed in equal parts and should be kept preserved as Shadanga Churna or powder. Churna means powder. Whenever required, 1 teaspoon of this churna is boiled with 500 ml of water. The cooled and filtered water itself is Shadanga Paniya. Half a cup of this drink has to be consumed before food when dhanyaka is used instead of shunti. Instead of shunti, you can use coriander. The paniya helps in combating the burning sensation which occurs in the stomach as well. So this is a remedy for overcoming excessive thirst and for overcoming burning sensation. It is called Shadanga Paniya. Next, there is one magical therapy called Ashtaguna Manda. This is told in Sharangadhara Samhita. Manda means gruel. Manda means gruel or porridge. Manda means in Kannada it is ganji. In Sanskrita it is called manda. In Kannada it is called ganji. Ashtaguna Manda. Ashtaguna means 8 properties, 8 qualities of this manda. That 8 are here only in this discussion. This I have tried many times. It is very good. It is for kidney and bladder detoxification. It is a cure for anemia and it's a cure for anorexia. It's a cure for fever. Anemia means you have less number of red blood cells in the blood. Anorexia means you are not having enough digestive strength. You don't feel hungry at times. That is called anorexia. Fever you already know. So this will cleanse the bladder. It will cleanse the kidneys effectively. Boil 4 pots of rice, either white rice or red boiled rice, whichever out of the 3, anyone you choose, in 20 pots of water with 1 pot of green gram. After it starts boiling, add 1 part each of trikatu, coriander seed powder and Saindhava Lavana. Saindhava Lavana is nothing but rock salt. After the mixture becomes a thin gruel, season with 1 pot of ghee fried asafoetida, ingu, and add 1 pot of sesame oil. Decant this to obtain the liquid part and consume this liquid part when it is hot. Now the solid part contains all this rice. You need not throw it away. The solid mixture can be consumed as food later on. Don't consume it immediately. Now when you decant this, when you get this liquid part, that liquid part you consume when it is hot. Let there be at least 1 hour gap before you consume this mixture as food. Or if you don't like this, you can throw it out. But what I suggest is don't throw it because it contains enough rice there. I have already told you the story of Thiruvalluvar and Vasuki. Please recall that story. Don't throw this rice. So the solid mixture can be consumed as food later on. This may take you some time to understand this process, or you will have to have some patience when you prepare this. I have already told you, learn to some extent cooking. Gents who are listening to me, you also learn cooking. Ladies who are listening to me, don't hate cooking. Don't hate cooking. Don't keep saying that your life goes on in kitchen. You are doing a noble job there. If nobody else is appreciating you, I am appreciating you. So as much as possible, love cooking because you are preparing food for the whole family. And if you keep on cursing the cooking process, indirectly you are cursing the food itself and you are causing bad health to whole of your family members. So as all of us love our job, even I love our job. I love this particular job which I am doing right now also. All of us have to keep on loving our own jobs and tasks and works. Those gents who are listening to me, if you don't know how to do cooking, you start learning cooking. You will appreciate that art. So have enough patience while preparing this, but don't do this very often. Once in 6 months is enough. If at all you want to continue with this Ashtaguna Manda, once in 6 months is enough. Okay, with this, let me go to the next slide. This is going to be my last suggestion of therapy in this particular set of slides. It is called Shankha Prakshalana. This you can practice once in a year. I had earlier told about this Swadishta Virechana Churna and I had told about the Virechana Gutika. If that you have not done, or even if you have done also, you can try this one also. This is basically a yogic method. Shankha Prakshalana is basically a combination of yogasanas along with salt water intake. That I'm going to tell you now. To 16 glasses of lukewarm water, add 8 teaspoons of salt and then juice of 4 lemons. 16 glasses of lukewarm water, 8 teaspoons of salt, regular salt or even rock salt. Then juice of 4 lemons. Drink 2 glasses of this particular water in the early morning without breakfast. Now the Shankha Prakshalana, you will have to prepare for it at least one day before, and the whole day you should be at home itself. So drink these 2 glasses of this particular water in the early morning without breakfast. Now you will have to practice these many yogasanas. Practice 2 rounds of the following 6 yogic kriyas 6 times each. Tadasana, Tiryak Tadasana, Katichakrasana, Tiryak Bhujangasana, Udarakarshana, Hamsagamana. All these are already discussed or explained by me in our YouTube channel in some of the videos. Now your work is that you go through all our videos and you find out in which video all these are told, and then you carefully understand the instructions. Otherwise, when I start my practical classes, we will go into more detail about these practices. So you'll have to practice 2 rounds of this following 6 yogic kriyas 6 times each. Tadasana, Tiryak Tadasana, Katichakrasana, Tiryak Bhujangasana, Udarakarshana, Hamsagamana. Afterwards, once more, Tadasana, Tiryak Tadasana, Katichakrasana, Tiryak Bhujangasana, Udarakarshana, Hamsagamana. That way totally 6 rounds. 6 times, again 2 rounds. Okay. Then repeat this process of drinking 2 glasses of water, practicing 2 rounds of yogic kriyas for 8 times. It will take you almost 2 to 3 hours. Take your own time. Do it slowly. Okay. Repeat this process of drinking 2 glasses of water, this water, saltish water, along with the lemon water. And 2 rounds of these yogic kriyas, each one is 6 times. This 6 times, 6 times, 6 times, 2 rounds. Then again, 2 rounds of yogic kriyas, totally for 8 times. Within these 8 times, if at all you feel like defecation, go to the toilet and eject it out. Because when you start doing these asanas, the saltish water, when it goes into the intestine, it will try to cleanse the intestine, and gradually you may feel an urge to defecate. Then you can go back again, wash your rectum and come back. You can continue for 8 times. Now if you don't get defecation here in between, you will get defecation after 8 times, or maybe after about 1 hour or so. You will definitely get the urge for defecation because that much of salt water has gone inside. Now after defecation, perform Shavasana. Even if you don't get defecation, you purposefully go to the toilet and try to defecate. It will happen there because of this much of drinking of water. It will happen there. Once you experience it, you will understand it. And yes, you have to experience it for you to understand. After defecation, perform Shavasana, but without sleeping. You have to relax your body completely for next 5 to 10 minutes, but you should not sleep. You should simply relax your body. You may not get sleep also. After about 1 hour's rest, consume semi-fluid food such as khichdi or pongal or gruel with ghee. This is called Shankha Prakshalana. Shankha means conch. Prakshalana means cleansing. So we don't know who invented this method. Some Hatha Yogi only invented this method. This is not mentioned in Ayurveda as such. It is mentioned in the yogic textbooks. So somebody who found out about how to cleanse the digestive system, he visualized the digestive system itself like a shankha or a conch. Inside a conch, you have a spiral cavity there. Same way this intestine has got. Intestine is basically a cavity which is moving in a circular fashion, or which is which is present in the stomach itself in a zigzag fashion. So now when the salt water goes into the intestine, and when you do all these bending postures, bending and twisting postures, all these are basically bending, twisting postures. Hamsagamana means you walk like a swan. Udarakarsha means you are taking the stomach in and out, in and out. Katichakrasa means in the standing posture, you are bending to the left side and to the right side. Tiryak Bhujangasana means the regular Bhujangasana, but we are coming up in an angle, not in a straight way. And Tadasana, Tiryak Tadasana is already told in the Chandra Namaskara series in our videos. You can go through that. So when you practice all these things, you are giving enough twisting movement to the digestive system. And when there is this salt and lemon water going there, it will be flushing out everything there. It is like a very good overhauling or servicing which is happening to the digestive system. But you have to be a little careful. Don't overdo it. If at all within these 8 terms, if you feel too much exhausted, then stop it there. If you have enough energy, then only you continue. Otherwise, let us say you have a defecation and you are having loss of energy, stop it there for that time. You may have to develop the stamina for doing all these things once again, maybe after about 1 year. Don't overdo this particular process. You can practice it once in a year, but be careful. Be listening to your own body. Don't overdo this particular activity. Let us say if at all something wrong happens, what wrong may happen? After defecation, you may feel less energetic. So nothing other thing will happen. No other wrong things will happen. You don't have to worry too much about it. Okay. There is a question. Do you have any printed material of all the slides or a book? It will be useful for reference. It is not possible, madam. Whatever is this session, you can keep on viewing it again and again. That is the only solution. If at all these things, if I have to write a book, you tell me how much of time it will take me for writing a book. And if at all I write that book and print it, how many people are going to read it? One book which was printed 4 years before by my very sincere student called Raj Shekhar. And he had printed it for the public's purpose only. Still 400 copies are there out of the 1000 copies. And he had invested more than a lakh rupees for printing that particular book. I had told him not to print because public will not read it. But he took an initiative that let public start reading it. But he did a lot of other efforts just to sell those books. From my side also, I had put enough effort to sell those books. Just because a few people are asking for a printed material, just think about me, how much of time I should devote for printing all those things, typing all those things, making a book, and hardly 20-30 people will buy that book, or 40-50 people will buy the book. Do you think that time is worth it? No, not for me. That is why better that anyhow I am recording all these things, and anyhow I am going to put it on YouTube channel also later on. Right now also I am sending all the links to you on a daily basis. You go through this again and again. That is enough. There is no need of printing a book as such. But all these slides, anyhow I am going to share it with you after this presentation is going to be over. That you already know. Can you please explain the process? 2 rounds versus 6 times again. Okay. See, Tadasana 6 times. Tiryak Tadasana 6 times. Katichakrasana 6 times. Tiryak Bhujangasana 6 times. That way. Udarakarshana 6 times. Hamsagamana 6 times. This you do again 2 rounds. This whole thing is now 1 round. See, there are totally 6 yogic kriyas. Each one you do 6 times. That means, if you watch the video, you will come to understand. Generally, standing straight is called Stavasana. From Stavasana, you are lifting your hand up. That is called Tadasana. Again, bring back to Stavasana, go up to Tadasana. Bring back to Stavasana, go up to Tadasana. That way 6 times. Tiryak Tadasana, watch that video, you will come to know. Tiryak Tadasana is to an angle. Again, either left side, then right side, then left side, then right side. That way 6 times. Then Katichakrasana 6 times. Tiryak Bhujangasana 6 times. Tirak Bhujangasana also, once left side, once right side. You can add your own varieties here. There is no problem as such. Once left side, once right side, that way. Then Udara Karshana is actually pressing the stomach in when you are exhaling. And again you release, again you press the stomach in, that way. Do it 6 times. Later on, you have to sit in a posture called Hamsagamana. Hamsa means swan. That in one of my videos, actually it is not a video, it is an audio. For some of these video may not be there, because video we did long back with lot of efforts. Some of my sincere students volunteered as models, and my sincere student Vijay took up the responsibility of editing all these things. Almost for 2 to 3 months this effort went on, and that is how finally we had these 6 videos. Later on in my audio recording, I made many corrections. Again, for those corrections, we cannot have one more video recording. It will take us some more time. Finally, I know that after all, how many people are going to really practice all these things? Very less number. That is why in my audio recording, I have made all those corrections. Anyway, as much as possible, you try out these things. You sit in Malasana, then you have to keep on walking front and back in the sitting posture. You have to keep on walking front and back. That is called Hamsagamana. Do it 6 times. Now this is one round. Do it again, one more round. Then drink 2 glasses of water. Again 2 more rounds. This way you do it totally 8 times. That means you should drink this saltish, lemonish water 8 times in between. And each time you will have to do 2 rounds of this yogasanas or yogic kriyas. I am taking screenshots of all this side. This can be of help me for reference. Yeah, that is your choice. Anyhow, I am going to share all these slides with you. So what is the need of you taking screenshots? It will not be of much help to you. It is up to you. Okay, after about 1 hour's rest, consume the semi-fluid food such as khichdi or pongal or gruel with enough ghee. Now you may worry that, sir, that much of 8 teaspoons of salt we put, and will it not affect us? You have been telling that salt is one of the white poisons. Yes, salt is one of the white poisons, but the salt is a very good disinfectant also. That is how it is a poison there. Now, we overcome the effect of negative effect of the salt just by adding more and more of ghee. So this light food such as khichdi, pongal or gruel along with ghee, that is going to heal your stomach completely, and you don't have to worry about the damage that is made by salt. For example, on a daily basis or at least for 2 days or 3 days, all of us wash our clothes or get it washed in the washing machine, right? Do we really worry about the life of the clothes? When clothes along with the soap water is going in the middle of the washing machine, or you are dipping it in a bucket of water and adding soap powder, you want the clothes to be cleansed. You will not worry much about the soap's effect on cloth, but soap will have some effect on cloth. That is why soap should not be too much of concentrated soap there. It will damage the cloth gradually. Same way here, we are supplying lemon also along with the salt. It is not just only the salt, lemon also along with salt, and it is a lukewarm water. When it is a lukewarm water, it will have its own healing effect. And at the end, when you consume this khichdi or pongal or gruel along with ghee, all the damage that is made by the salt is going to be overcome. That way you don't have to fear a lot. I told you this method was invented by a Hatha Yogi. Hatha yogis develop a courage to cleanse their body that way. They develop that much of daring. Hatha yoga basically means daring only. So you should develop that courage or daring, then only you try out this. If you are too much afraid of all these things, don't try at all. It is better. Otherwise, someday you will curse me. If at all you have more pain when you do this, let us say whenever you are defecating, if you have more pain, at that time, don't remember me. Okay. When you are defecating in the toilet, don't remember me, don't curse me. If possible, at that time, you remember me and you thank me. If at all you have made up your mind to curse me, then don't practice this at all. That is better for you, better for me. I'm almost coming to the end of this particular set of slides. Later on, I'm going to start my next set of slides where I focus more only on the mind and the brain. Now, just look at this particular slide. For sleep and brain function, there are helpful herbal items such as Brahmi, Jatamamsi, Jati Phala, Kapikachu, Shankapushpi, and Vidari. For digestive health, Haritaki, Vibhitaki, Madhurika, Jati Phala, Shunti, Pippali, Maricha. And for bone health and metabolism, Ashwagandha, Methika, Gokshura, Mustaka, Punarnava, Vidanga. And for immunity, Amalaki, Ela, Guduchi, Tulasi, Haridra, Shatavari. Now all these items in one way or the other, they are present in Chyavanprasha. That's why I have been repeatedly telling you to keep on consuming Chyavanprasha lifelong. You may say that, sir, individually we are unable to take it. We don't know about this also. We may not get this also. You don't have to worry. You don't have to buy all these things individually. You don't have to worry. But this slide is the preparation for my next slide. That's why I showed you this slide. Look at this. You have a picture at the left. You have a picture at the middle. You have a picture at the bottom. Now, very young age, energetic phase. Up to 25 years, the body will keep growing. There will be enough of hormonal secretion happening. And there will be less of health issues. Now, in the middle age, gradually, if you don't keep yourself fit, if you don't physically exercise, if you don't take care of your body, and if you don't take care of your food, then you will start losing your health in the middle age. Now, if at all you take care this way, even in the old age, you will have enough energy in the body. But look at this picture and this picture. The face which is glowing here. Now you can see the skin will be having wrinkles. You cannot stop aging in any way. You can only slow down the aging. You cannot prevent death in any way. You can only postpone the death to some time. And until death, you can remain healthy. That is the choice. You need not keep on suffering until death. And during death also, you need not be suffering. We all can have a peaceful death at home itself, if at all we maintain a healthy life, healthy body until then. So in what way Ayurveda is helping us? Yoga is definitely helping us. In what way Ayurveda is helping us? I'm going to show you in the next slide. The human body grows until age 25. It sustains itself until age 50. It starts decaying within after age 50. I have been telling you, in the very young age, life-giving cells are more in number, life-taking cells are less in number. Now, if at all you don't do any physical exercise, if at all you don't take care of your food, then in the middle age, this can become 50-50. Life-giving cells and life-taking cells, if they are 50-50 in portion, then you will start suffering from diseases. If at all in the old age, if the life-giving cells are lesser in number, life-taking cells are more in number, death will happen earlier. And painful death will happen with many types of other diseases. So the wisdom or the intelligence is there that take care of food, take care of health, and keep yourself fit. Otherwise, ಒಂದು ಹಂತದವರೆಗೂ ದೇಹ ಬೆಳೀತಾ ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ, ಆನಂತರ ದೇಹ ಕೊಳಿತಾ ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ. It starts decaying within after age 50. And this they understood much before. The Ayurvedic seers, they understood this particular property of the body millenniums before. Now they gave a solution for this called as Rasayana. There is a question here. Amritarishta can it be preferred for infants for fever? Infants means if it is less than 3 years, then you have to consult a doctor. If the child is more than 3 years, until 12 years, you can give half teaspoon of Amritarishta. But if it is infant, don't experiment. If an infant is getting a fever, you have to take it to doctor. Preferably take it to Ayurveda doctor. Then uh, he will try to cure, or he will give you better advice. Okay, I think with this I will stop. It is already 9:05. I was telling you about the importance of Rasayana. I had told about the importance of Rasayana in my previous presentation also. In my next slide, I am going to show you a set of Rasayanas, which is meant for what purpose also. I am going to show you. The basic purpose of Rasayana is to somehow slow down aging and somehow keep the body fit, keep the body healthy. That is the basic purpose of Rasayana. If at all I start it now, I may not be able to end that particular slide within a stipulated time. So let me stop for today. We will meet each other on Monday. Until then, take care and bye-bye.